those ones suck just because you can't communicate with the customer like you can with one that the customer drove in. Deal with them accordingly. Again, it's communication as well as you possibly can. Tow truck drivers are terrible to deal with. They're not service riders. They're not secretaries. They're tow truck drivers. So the truck comes in. Maybe there's a name on the key tag. Maybe there's not. You just got to park that thing out back and wait for whoever broke down to call. And that sucks because they told the tow truck driver their name. They gave the tow truck driver their email. They gave the tow truck driver their business card.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to session 2 of the Grow Your Shop Live. We have Vinnie Himes. If you don't already know, service writer, shop owner, technician, just all around great guy. He's come on today to talk to us about how are we writing and pricing out jobs. I think that's a big one. How are we keeping these profitable but keep customers coming back? I'm sure we've got a lot of questions about this, so I'm excited to hear what he says. Vinnie, take it away.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So, biggest thing as a service writer, I kind of got thrown into that role. No formal training. Never wanted to be a service writer. Never planned on being a service writer. I was a diesel enthusiast turned technician, and then later worked in sales, retail sales, e-commerce sales. And then I moved down here to Georgia to help a local shop build their website out and get them into the e-commerce sales. And kind of just got inadvertently thrown into a service writing role, and it was rough. Very hard to figure out just because I didn't have any training. I didn't have software to help look up labor times. So in the beginning, I was just going off of labor times based off my days as a technician. I knew how long it took to install a turbo on a 5.9 Cummins, and so those were the hours that I would bill. I knew how long it took to pull a transmission out of a F350, and so those were the hours that I would bill. And it turned into a big giant feud between myself and the technicians out in the shop because, maybe there was a job that I had done on repeat for many years over and over, and I got really good at it and really proficient at it, and I knew exactly what tools I would need to do it, versus a technician in the shop that maybe hadn't done that job as many times on repeat. And so it started bumping heads between the front office and the back of the shop because they felt like I was undercutting them on hours. I felt like they were crappy mechanics because they weren't getting the job done as fast as I could get it done. And so we ended up figuring the problem out. We ended up purchasing a shop software called Mitchell One, which is pretty old. I haven't used it in years, so I don't know where they stand as far as software goes today. There's a lot of new stuff out like TechMetric and stuff like that. All data. There's a ton of different shop softwares that'll help you quote labor times, price out parts, look up parts, source parts. And now they're kind of all integrated into one. And you can even do invoicing. If you're really a smart shop manager, I would make sure that all the technicians in the shop have either a tablet of some sort or a laptop on top of their toolbox. And you can create digital work orders and send them straight to their toolbox, and they can check jobs off as they get them done digitally. I mean, there's really no reason to have paper in the shop nowadays. You can do everything digitally. And that was kind of the direction we were headed at the last shop that I was with. Still some bumping heads between the front office and the back of the shop. Some of the guys were old school. They still wanted to pull a paper ticket off the wall and check it off. And that's something that the shop manager is going to have to put his foot down and say, hey, this is how we're doing things from now on. But there's just really no reason to be punching paper tickets and pulling paper work orders off walls anymore. It's just old school and it's just not efficient.
Well, let me ask you this before you go on. We talk about efficiency. You really kind of want to have the same or roughly the same cost for every job. How do you balance, like you said, you have someone's a little bit faster, someone's more familiar with this model versus that model without undercutting yourself and then going the wrong way and overcharging the client? Like, where's the happy medium?
Yeah, so that's kind of inadvertently, that's the scary part. And that's a great question because you've got what the industry calls book time. And book time is developed usually within the dealership itself. So if you're working on a Ford, book time for working on a Ford Power Stroke, swapping out the turbo, that book time is developed at the dealership. And the downside to that is they're developing that book time generally on a pretty new vehicle. They're developing that book time in a really nice state of the art facility, most of the time air conditioned nowadays. Um, Factory trained technicians that get all the classes for free or they get paid to go to classes versus a mom and pops or an independent shop. A lot of times they're not air conditioned. They're not state of the art. It's an old tire shop turned diesel shop, and it's just they're working with what they've got. So what I had to learn to do is I took the book time, which is the industry standard. That's what Ford says. Hey, if this is a brand new Ford pickup truck, a 2026 F-250, labor time to swap the turbocharger is 6.7 hours. That's a brand new truck, brand new bolts. They've never been rounded off by another shop. Truck's probably in pretty great condition. It's not rusted out yet. And so as an independent shop, they hooked me up with the software, and this was over a decade ago. So the software's changed a lot by now, but they hooked me up with the software, and the software got us close. So where I was previous to having the shop software, I was selling, just really rough numbers here. 2.5 hours to swap a turbo on a 5.9 Cummins. Well, all of a sudden I've got the shop software that's telling me that I'm supposed to be selling 6.5 hours. And I'm like, holy cow, I was way off. So I was killing those guys in the shop. Well, now you get a truck that's 30 years old and those exhaust manifold bolts are rusted out and one of them breaks off. And so I sold 6.5 hours, and now we've got a situation where the technician's going to have to potentially pull the cylinder head, send it out to a machine. It's just crazy, the stuff that you see on the shop side of things. And anybody that's watching this that has a shop can very painfully relate to what I'm saying. It's like book time's great. It gives you a rough idea. Your service writer, I think your service writer should work as a technician or work alongside technicians for a minimum of 6 to 8 months before he's ever sitting behind a desk as just a service writer or a front desk as a service writer, because there's just no way a guy behind a computer is ever going to get the experience as a guy behind a wrench, and they can't even be sympathetic to the guy behind the wrench because they just don't know. And so you end up creating this terrible animosity between the front and the back of the house. So to answer your question, what I would do as a service writer and what I did as a service writer is I would look at the book time, and then I would go look at the truck. So book time says 6.5 hour. I go look at the truck. I pop the hood. Oh my gosh. 15 YouTube certified mechanics have been tinkering with this thing. Wiring harnesses are routed the wrong way. Everything's wrong. I'm going to add 2 hours to try and help my technician out. Going a step further, go grab the technician that may end up working on the truck, or grab your slowest technician. If you worked in a shop, we all know who the slow guys are and who the fast guys are. Go grab the slow guy, pull him over. Hey man, what do you think? I'm looking at 6.5. I'm going to sell 8. What do you think? And maybe he sees something that I didn't see. Man, at least give me 9. Like, at least give me 9. If I get it done in 6.5, we'll hook the customer up. We'll give him a discount. That's a perfect scenario versus me selling 2.5 because I knew I could do it in 2.5 as a technician that was doing turbos, 5 times a day, 6 days a week. It's all I did. I was really good at it. So that's perfect scenario. Communication between the service writer and the technician, visual communication between the service writer and the vehicle itself. If you got a service writer that refuses to go outside and look at trucks, find a new service writer.
And that's good. Okay, so I'm hearing book time is that perfect scenario, and it really should be the minimum in most cases. And you've got to look at real life condition of truck, etc. I love that. Let's go back to modernizing. I think we got to be careful that technology is a magic fix for the business. However, it's 2026. We're recording this whenever you may be watching it. You really don't need paper in the shop. I do see Mitchell 1 is still available. Still looks like they're kicking. What are some ways that shop owner can upgrade his shop without taking the people part of the business out?
Uh, programs like TechMetric is one of the ones that, as I was kind of exiting the shop scene, was really coming into the limelight. And I still talk to shop owners daily, and that seems to be a really popular option for most shops. And the cool thing about TechMetric is it's going to help the shop owner, not just the service writer. So it helps the service writer with wiring schematics and labor times and looking up parts and all that fun stuff. But it's also keeping track of your P&Ls electronically. So instead of having an accountant on staff and having a secretary on staff taking notes, taking calls, service writer on staff, you can take that program and make it take the place of, I don't want to say three humans, but that's ultimately what it does. As a business owner, I don't necessarily want to get rid of an accountant and replace her with a computer program, but maybe you replace an accountant with a computer program and it allows you to hire that tire technician that you couldn't afford to hire before, or whatever the case may be for each individual business. Maybe you want to use TechMetric and you still want an accountant keeping track of things. It's a good backup. It's a digital backup to make sure that the paper side of the business matches the digital side of the business.
So moving forward, we've got Mitchell One, TechMetric in the business. We're pricing things accurately. Is there ever a time you come back and tell the customer, hey, we way underbid this? How do you approach that uncomfortable conversation?
That is an uncomfortable conversation, and it does happen. And so, worst case scenario, I've run into that, and I kind of teased at it in the last example. You're pulling a turbocharger off. Anybody in the diesel industry knows in most scenarios, you got about 4 bolts holding the turbocharger to a pedestal or to a manifold. You've got a V-band clamp holding a cast iron elbow to the back of the turbo. Intercooler boot clamps holding the intercooler boots onto the turbo. So I'm trying to cover the inline 6 Cummins guys and the V8 Duramax and Power Stroke guys here. The labor times are drastically different. Inline 6 engines are a little bit easier to work on than V8 engines, but at the end of the day, if book time says, hey, it's 6.5 hours to pull out everything around the turbo that's hiding the bolts from you, and to remove those 4 bolts, to pull the turbo off the manifold or the pedestal, and to remove the up pipes and the intercooler pipes, that's all they're covering, because that's all that it should technically require. You get a truck that comes down out of Illinois, I don't care if it's a year old or 2 years old, it's going to be in rough shape from all the salt, especially if it's been a truck that's used as a snow plow truck or whatever. It's running in the winter roads up north. That 6.5 hour job just went out the window. And that comes down to really good communication between the service writer, the shop owner, the business manager, whoever's in front of the customer when the customer drops the keys off. And that's something that I try to do a really good job of, is just really good communication, because in the beginning, before I was a service writer and I just got thrown into that role, I'd check the truck in. What's your name? What's your phone number? Year, make, and model. What color is it? Boom. Cool, man. Here's your ticket. We'll get this thing checked in. I'll call you in a couple of days. We'll get it diagnosed. I'll let you know what's going on with it. And that's all I knew to do. 5 years in, that was a totally different scenario. Customers dropping the keys off. I'm looking at the year, make, and model. I'm kind of peeking out the window at the truck. Ooh, I'm peeping a little rust around the fenders and the cab corners there. Let's walk out and look at this thing. What's going on with it again? And just strike up a little conversation, a little back and forth. Oh man, it's underpowered. It won't pull a hill like it used to pull. Okay, well that could be map sensor. It could be EBP sensor. There's a couple of, you could have boost leaks. So pop the hood, look around for the really obvious stuff. No boost leaks, no soot buildup behind the turbocharger. Okay, maybe we got an internal failure of the turbo. Compressor wheels ate up, whatever the case may be. I can't see anymore as far as me being a service writer standing in a parking lot with a customer, but I did my due diligence. I looked at the obvious stuff. All the intercooler boots are in place. Okay, well that's the easy fixes out of the question. We just check that off. No exhaust leaks around the turbo. Okay, more easy fixes. We just checked that off the list. Now we're looking more at probably a turbocharger failure. I can start now that I've done that due diligence and looked at it with the customer and pointed a few things out, educated the customer. I've built trust with the customer. Now they automatically know that I at least know a little bit of what I'm talking about. I knew to look for boost leaks. I knew to look for busted intercooler boots. I knew to look see if the map sensor hose was unplugged. That's a joke between me and Bill. I knew to look for exhaust leaks. Is the downpipe cracked, split, falling off? Okay, well now the customer and I have a rapport. He knows that I'm not retarded and I have a little bit of knowledge. Maybe I'm not the guy that's going to be working on the truck. Maybe I'm not the guy that's going to be diagnosing the truck, but I did my due diligence and now we have a rapport and we have a little bit of trust. Now I can start kind of setting expectations. And for the customer, that's dollars and downtime. So I could say, okay, man, well, we're going to have to get this thing in. I'm going to have to go, my technician's going to have to go test drive it. We're going to watch VGT duty cycle. We're going to watch map. We're going to watch EBP. We're going to watch boost. We're going to go test drive it, watch all these parameters that we can see on the computer. And then we're going to determine if this is a turbocharger failure or an electrical issue, something that's commanding the turbocharger, the VGT actuator, the VGT solenoids. And, it's probably going to be 2 days before my technician can do that. So I've set an expectation of time. If it's the turbocharger, and the customer's going to ask, it's no brainer. Oh, geez, turbocharger, that sounds expensive. How much is that? Stock replacement's $2,000. That exhaust manifold is super rusted out. I'm kind of worried about bolts breaking off in there. Here's an aftermarket kit, comes with a high flow 3-piece exhaust manifold and a turbo for $3,800. Same labor time, give or take. You're going to add an extra hour to do the manifold while we're in there. But there's an extra value. You're getting an upgraded high flow exhaust manifold. You're getting a much better turbocharger. The factory charger uses a 180-degree thrust bearing. This turbocharger uses a bronze 360-degree thrust bearing. And so again, you're educating the customer. You're building value in this aftermarket upgrade and getting them away from that factory turbocharger that failed at 100,000 miles. This aftermarket one, better parts, better design, better testing, better engineering. It's probably going to last you around 300,000 miles. So now the customer has a price in their head and they have a timeline in their head. That's about as good as you can do as a service writer as far as checking a truck in. What you do not want to do is have a service writer that refuses to walk outside with a customer, a service writer that's scared to talk to customers, and a service writer that has no idea what he's talking about. And I worked in a shop like that where the service writer was just ditzy, completely out of touch with what was our clientele. Diesel truck drivers are rednecks, they're cowboys, they're farmers, they're construction workers, they're plumbers. They're rougher blue collar guys like myself. I'm a cattle rancher turned log home builder. I had to have diesel trucks working in those professions, and lacking diesel shops in rural Montana, I had to learn how to work on these things myself. So I can very much relate to your typical diesel shop owner. Your typical diesel shop owner is not going to walk into the shop wearing a pair of khaki slacks and penny loafers. It's just usually not reality. I have had that happen, but if your service writer can't relate to your clientele, you're already losing. So if your service writer is relatable, your customers are going to feel more comfortable. And if your service writer is good at communicating, especially if you're going to hire a service writer, I would really vet that guy hard. If you can train your own service writer, that would be ideal. Make sure that guy's out in the shop in the evenings with technicians, not sitting in the office in the air conditioning, because there is that back and forth. Like, the easiest way for me to explain it to somebody that doesn't own a diesel shop or has never worked in a diesel shop, if you've seen the movie Waiting and you see how the front of the restaurant talks about the back of the restaurant and vice versa, that's diesel shops. That's every diesel shop in America. The front of the house hates the back of the house. They're dirty, greasy, knuckle-dragging wrench turners. And the back of the house hates the front of the house. They sit in the air conditioning and click-clack away on their keyboards, and they just bump heads. So if you can kill that ASAP and make the front of the house and the back of the house not just get along, but be friends, joke around, goof around, sit around and eat lunch together, build a rapport between the front and the back of the house. Let the service writer go back there in the evening when the guys are working on their own stuff and hand wrenches and ask questions and be inquisitive. They might be annoyed. They might talk crap about him behind his back, but they're going to respect him a little bit for stepping out of the office, stepping out of the air conditioning, getting into the dirt and the grease with them, and getting a little skin in the fight. That is so valuable.
Man, I'm hearing communication, building trust. I'm talking about education. You said some real powerful. Just because they're blue collar, farmers, plumbers. These are some of the smartest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
And giving them credit for that. So
No,
let's zoom out.
they're innovating on the fly. I mean, they're very, very skilled people.
Absolutely. I want to zoom out. You touched on it, but I want to make sure we dive into it. So the truck in front of me might just need 4 hours of work. Let's just say, but there's 15 vehicles ahead of that one. What does that look like on managing the shop on a macro level, and then down to educating the customer?
That's an awesome question. I'm so happy you asked that, because I just been in the industry so long, I kind of just think over that. So that's an awesome question. Again, that comes down to the service writer. It's his responsibility to set the expectation for the customer. And the shop that I worked at was a 22 drive-through bay, 35,000 square foot shop. This was a huge shop. We were not working on 1 or 2 trucks a week, with oil changes, basic inspections, major repairs, minor repairs, little bitty performance upgrades. So what that looks like for the layman's not sure what I'm talking about. You could pull up the shop Monday morning. Maybe there's 15 trucks in a shop that size overflow from last week. So a lot of the trucks, like our goal as a shop, was to get as many trucks done by Friday as we could, and to get those trucks picked up on Friday. So our goal was to intake X amount of vehicles on Monday, diagnose as many of them, if not all of them, on Tuesday. So we're ordering parts Tuesday, parts are showing up Wednesday. Technicians hopefully already got that truck in a bay tearing down on Tuesday as I'm ordering parts, so that when the parts arrive on Wednesday afternoon, the technician's already going back together with the repair. Thursday, he finishes up the repair, hopefully. If it's not a huge job, I'm talking like turbocharger replacement, brake jobs, axle seals, transfer case in and out, medium-sized jobs, not huge jobs. So these jobs are coming in on Monday, diagnosed on Tuesday at the latest. Parts are ordered Tuesday, parts are showing up Wednesday, parts are going on Wednesday evening, trucks getting wrapped up Thursday afternoon, test driven Thursday afternoon. Customers should be receiving a phone call Thursday afternoon. Hey man, I'm here for 4 more hours. If you want to try to swing by and pick it up this afternoon, I'm still here. I'll stay late for you if you need me to stay late for you. We're here all day Friday. We're going to be gone from noon to 1 for lunch. Just really, really, really solid communication goes a long way in the diesel world. Any business. And so if that's the situation, maybe we took in 75 trucks on Monday. 10 of them were just inspections. Hey, there's a funny noise. Can you check it out? Yeah, dude, there was a rock stuck in the dust shield on the brakes. It was no big deal, no charge. Have a great week. Thank you for stopping by. Customer for life. 10 of them are, man, my light's on my dash. I don't know what it is. Check it out. 6 of those are just replace the air filter, change the oil, fuel filters. Maybe 3 or 4 of them are mediocre, medium-sized jobs. And then you've got a bunch of oil changes. That's inevitable. Like we just got inundated with oil changes. We had 2 oil change technicians just knocking those things out. You don't make any money on them most of the time, but you're building rapport with a potential future customer. Throw together a little digital vehicle diagnostics. Hey, we knocked out the oil change for you. We checked the fuel filters. They're good. We checked the air filter. It's good. We looked at your U-joints. They got a tiny bit of play, nothing to be concerned about yet. Keep in the back of your mind, 6 months from now, let's bring it back for another oil change. Let's double check those U-joints again. Checked your drive line, everything looks great. Tires are a little bit worn, maybe rotate soon. If you got a tire shop you prefer to take it to, do that. If not, let's schedule you for 2 weeks from now. So you got all these little vehicle inspection, oil changes that you can turn into vehicle inspections that can turn into not an upsell at all, because that's disgusting, but showing the customer that you care. Hey, your truck came in for an oil change. We looked over everything. Here's a full comprehensive list of things that we noticed. None of them are issues. Put them on your radar. Keep an eye on them. Listen for this, this, and that. Customer education, building rapport. Have a great week. Take your truck. It's done. And then you get 20 of them that are just complete unknowns. We are a big shop located off two major highway intersections. Somebody breaks down on this highway. They're Googling diesel repair, Highway 316. We pop up. They call a tow truck, take it there. Truck comes in. We don't know anything about it. You get 5, 6, 10 of those a week. Those ones suck just because you can't communicate with the customer like you can with one that the customer drove in. Deal with them accordingly. Again, it's communication as well as you possibly can. Tow truck drivers are terrible to deal with. They're not service riders. They're not secretaries. They're tow truck drivers. So the truck comes in. Maybe there's a name on the key tag. Maybe there's not. You just got to park that thing out back and wait for whoever broke down to call. And that sucks because they told the tow truck driver their name. They gave the tow truck driver their email. They gave the tow truck driver their business card. He threw it in the glove box, threw it under the seat, watered it up, threw it on the side of the road. Who knows? I've dealt with tow truck drivers for 2 decades. They're absolutely terrible service riders and even worse secretaries. And I've never been a tow truck driver, so I don't know what that day-to-day is. To me, it doesn't seem that hard to, slide somebody's business card into a key ring just to make sure we have their contact info. But that was very much the case, is trucks that got towed in, we just had very little to no communication with the customer. And so what I'm setting up here is just the day-to-day as a diesel shop for the this is for the customers. Like the diesel shop owners know everything I'm talking about. They're like, duh, dude, you're preaching to the choir. But educating the customer, they need to know that because they don't know that. Some dude pulls in your parking lot. He has no idea that 10 trucks just got towed in and dropped off with no communication, that you don't know anything about the customer or who they are. But if you build that expectation, hey, man, I'm getting you checked in. I just had like 5 trucks dropped off today that I have no idea where they came from or who owns them. Technically, they're ahead of you. You're dropping off on Tuesday. Those trucks got towed in on Monday. If I don't hear from those owners by Wednesday afternoon, I'm going to slide you ahead of those guys. Well, that makes the customer feel good, but it also sets an expectation. I'm not first. I need to hurry up and wait. I need to be patient for a day or two to let these guys figure out what all these other vehicles are. If you don't communicate that, your customer has no idea. And so what you've just created is a whole bunch of, I'm checking on the status of my truck people because you didn't communicate on the front end. So they're just blowing your phones up. You could be out in the shop helping guys diag trucks. You could be out in the shop handing some dude wrenches. You could be out in the shop ordering parts. You could be out in the shop doing a myriad of different things, but instead you're stuck on the phone answering the phone because you got 15 people that you didn't communicate with calling to check on the status of the truck that they just dropped off 15 minutes ago. So communication can snuff all that in the butt for the most part. You've got some really special people out there that will walk into the parking lot, look around, and be like, holy balls, you guys are busy. Here's my keys. Check them in, whole process. All right, man, we're headed out to lunch. I'll talk to you as soon as we get the truck diagnosed. You come back from lunch, you got 13 voicemails from that dude calling to check on the status of his truck. I don't know who raises those people, but dang, I don't like them. So there's all kinds of weird situations you run into as a service rider, as a shop owner, as a shop manager. But 99% of the bad situations can be snuffed out by really good communication.
Yeah, that's so simple, but it's missed so often. So I'm glad you said
Yeah.
it out loud. All right, let's bring it home. And for someone, like you said, the shop owners is maybe preaching to the choir. We're glad you get it. We get it. For someone that's newer or looking for the education, talk to them why they should join the Diesel Alliance and stay tuned for more trainings like this one.
Man, I wish I had an outlet like the Diesel Alliance when I was figuring all this out, because I really truly figured everything that I'm talking about out in the hardest, most miserable way possible. Uh, I was public enemy number one in that shop. I had no clue what I was doing. Everybody there knew I had no clue what I was doing. I was bumping heads with the shop owner. I was the shop manager. I was bumping heads with the shop foreman who's trying to run his crew of guys out there and get them lined out. I'm underselling labor. He hates my guts. I'm making promises I couldn't keep because I just didn't know. I wish I had a place like the Diesel Alliance where I could have been like, "Hey guys, I'm freaking new. I don't know what to do with my hands," and a bunch of veteran shop owners, shop managers, service writers, technicians. Like, that's the unsung hero of the Diesel Alliance. Is you got all these business owners, and being a business owner, I love other business owners. I love learning from them. I love sharing ideas with other business owners. I love bouncing tips and tricks off other business owners' heads. But business owners never think like diesel technicians. You can't. You can't. Unless the business owner started out as a one-man show that he was a technician. Even that's hard, because as a one-man show business owner technician, you're doing QuickBooks, you're writing tickets, you're dealing with customers, you're turning wrenches. A true technician is in the shop all day long, diagnosing, cranking out work, bolting on parts, getting things done. They have a completely different mindset than a service writer or a business manager or a shop owner. So I would love to see more technicians get involved in the Diesel Alliance and say the stuff out loud that was said behind my back. It took me a long time to figure out what was being said behind my back, to the point where I could build a rapport with the technicians so they no longer had to talk crap about me behind my back. And that's a lot more conducive for the business that we all work for. I don't care if you're a shop owner, a manager, a service writer, a technician. The day that you're too good to pick up a broom and mop up a big oily mess that a technician just made by accident, that's the day you should leave the diesel industry forever and never come back. I always made it an effort. If I saw a guy out in the shop struggling, I'm in my office writing up work orders. I'm in my office looking up parts. I'm in my office enjoying the air conditioning. But every now and then you need to get up off your butt and go get some exercise, make a couple rounds around the shop. And if you see a guy that's struggling, he's obviously having a bad day. He looks pissed off. He sounds pissed off. He's throwing wrenches. Swing by, look around, use common sense. Oh, there's a big oil mess on the floor. He must have knocked something over and now he's in a bad mood. Grab a mop, sweep it up, grab some soak up, throw it on the floor, help out. Just the tiniest bit of effort can build an amazing rapport between the front and the back of the house. And that's invaluable. So I would love to hear more of that on the Diesel Alliance, that back and forth between the shop owners, the technicians, the service writers, because you're all working in the same establishment and not one of you is better than the other. The service writer can write up 3,000 hours worth of work on Monday morning. If you don't have technicians in the back knocking it out, you're worthless. If you're getting paid commission on those tickets you're writing up, you're never going to get it, because technicians hate you and they're just going to drag the work out to punish you. And I've seen that happen. That's the thing. It's petty as hell, but it's a thing. So if you build a good rapport with the technicians and the technicians build a good rapport with the service writer, that's where you come together in a space where you're both making money. You're both cutting up, having a good time after work, telling stories, hanging out on the weekends, going fishing. That is the best thing that can ever happen to a diesel shop, is when everybody within the industry or within the establishment is getting along, working cohesively together. And that's exactly what the Diesel Alliance has created, is a space for that to take place.
Man, I love it. So if you're listening to this, whether it was live or weeks from now, months from now, and tell a friend to tell a friend, we're here to help you get there a little faster and smoother, so you don't have to do it alone. So you don't have to figure it out on your own. Man, Vinny, thanks so much. We always appreciate you. We'll be back again every 2 weeks, every Thursday. Oh, hey. And all our furry friends are welcome as well. Until then, hey, the Diesel Alliance is here to support you. Cheers.
Awesome, Bruce. Take care. Have a great weekend.